And there's always a moment, the people who come that slip through the cracks that only came for clout, they're the ones that have the biggest breakdowns usually.
Yeah.
Only a few have slid through without really showing us who they are or being vulnerable at all. Only a couple through the 5 seasons we've been doing it together. But man, you always tell them, though, what you think you came here for, that's your line.
You got questions. We've got answers, but they're none of the questions you thought you were asking.
Right.
Yep. And that's the truth.
It's true.
People are like, we're coming, we're doing this, da, 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 and then we start going into different directions, and they're like, wait, hold on. Like, what did Vanessa say last season? I'm not doing this with you, Mark.
And I'm like,
I'm not doing this with you, Mark. They're like, yeah, because you were tapping into something that
I said, you're already
it's here. We're here. We're in it. And that, to me, is what it is. It's like, you can have the protective layer, but we're going to peel it back.
And here's why. Go ahead. Press the buttons. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the pod. I'm really pretty pumped about today. You will be, too. If you're fans of Temptation Island, which I assume some of you are, and I named this podcast Bonfire Talks because those bonfires that happen at Temptation Island, I don't know if they were ever supposed to go like they went, and they would not have continued to go that way without the people I have here, or at least half of the people I've got here. But I think both of you have something to do. I've got Trifari and Hashim Williams here. Trifari is executive producer, the woman behind the entire production of Temptation Island, has been for several seasons, and my ride or die in that process, and we can talk about that. But it's also Hashim's birthday, and so she was going to show up just to be on the podcast, Trifari, and then she texted me this morning and said, it's my husband's birthday, can he come and watch? And I'm like, he can come and be part of it.
I love it.
Hashim is a showrunner too. You've done, how many years you've been running shows and doing your thing?
I was producing shows for a very long time before I jumped to the executive side on the network side, but
so he's actually a network executive, but I'm still going to be friends with him.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's so new yet that I think he still has possession of his soul.
Yeah, that's true.
Not until the second pickup where they actually ask for your soul, I think.
Yeah, they haven't that part's still on the dotted line.
Right. He didn't sign that page yet.
You're still good people.
Yeah.
Know this, that Temptation Island, coming back from the dead after 20 years, was an answer to a prayer of mine I didn't know I was praying for. Mm. And the lesson, if there's one for you, is that don't judge the garden you're planted in. Mm. Because sometimes the fruit grows where you didn't expect it to grow. Mm. So when people ask me, I haven't told you this, but when people ask me what is Temptation Island, if they haven't seen it, I say it's this dating show, it's a reality show. They say, well, what's it about? I say, well, I can't really tell you that. All I'll tell you is it looks like porn and feels like Oprah. My point is that, and the reason I really want to just give you flowers mostly, but I'm going to get into, I may actually let you speak at some point, which may remind you of our taping. But what it provided for me is this could have been this bullshit reality show, but it provided for me in my decades of TV the only time I can think of where I got to sit on a box in the jungle and have real talk without anybody saying don't do that, about real things with real people, that whether it ends up on camera or makes a difference on TV,
we got to do that,
wasn't as important as the impact it made in the moment. Mm-hmm. So thank you, first of all. And I'm going to do what I can to get through this without crying, but it won't even be about you. I'm just weepy these days. But what I want to say, first of all, the takeaway is you never know where you get called to service, and it may not look like what you thought it was supposed to look like. Mm. Like I thought I'd be having these kind of talks, the kind of talks that I was having on Temptation Island. I thought that would be like a talk show or a TED Talk or a church, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been there. So hi.
Hi,
Trey.
Thank you for having me.
Are you kidding?
But we do this thing that we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was I was going to say by luck and accident, but neither you nor I nor you believe that even exists. I don't think.
No. And I think that's the beauty of what ended up happening between us, because I think at one point I kind of just got thrown into, let's have you have the conversation with Mark, and we sat down.
Well, so the backstory is that season 1, you weren't on the show.
No.
And then the woman who was the co-executive producer, who was kind of the point person, had another show, and Triff came in to take that position and was thrown into the position of, while the executive producer who was running the show was running all the stuff, on bonfire days, you would do the briefing with me.
Right. That's exactly what happened.
Right.
So I would sit there with you and then often Robbie.
Yeah.
And we would just have a dialogue about what was going on. And then we started going, oh, we think the same.
Yeah.
We feel the same. And then cut to, we built that relationship. And then next season, I became the showrunner.
That's right.
And
which I was thrilled about. And that's no slam to anybody else. But what happened when you came on the show, look, one of the things that makes me good at what I do also holds me back is that I'm feeling everything all the time. And if the vibe isn't right, it takes me out of my game.
Yeah.
But when the vibe is right, it's like a warm, cuddly bath.
Yep.
And our vibe was instantly great.
Yep.
Like I felt safe with you. And you respectfully let me do my thing.
yeah, well, I think because it's not popular especially when people think of reality TV, one, they think everything's fake. They think we're feeding people things. They think we're manipulating every situation. And what I think is really important wherever I am is that people can trust me, and that we're going to keep the story real and tell the story in a real, authentic way. And so when we pair up and we start talking about the root of the issues, it doesn't start with what's happening there.
We're not like who banged who. We're talking about what's going on with them.
Yes. Right. No, tell me why and when did that start? And so the way we come at two different ends to get there is how we get what we get, and what we get is real. And half the stuff people would never know that hit the cutting floor.
Right.
Like there's so many gems. We can't get it all in 42 minutes.
But the process of going there to cut it gets us what we get.
Oh, and you feel it. I think the viewers, that's the thing we always say is we wish more people really didn't take, Temptation Island, got another island reality show. But this is different. Yeah. And we make it very different. Yeah. And the producers and the cast, and like we're very intentional. And I think a lot of people are very surface, and we're the opposite of that. And that's where the yumminess comes in.
That's where the wings for me come. I guess is the best way I can say it. And the reason I wanted you to be there, I was going to say, because it comes out of what this is a little bit. But go ahead, what were you going to say, Hash?
The thing I think that Temptation Island did that was so amazing because of the two of you was, the who's hooking up with who and how that's happening is interesting for a moment. But the why behind it and what and the root of the whether it was toxic or whether it was great, but the root of it is really what's interesting. That's what really keeps you wanting to come back and pay attention. And I've worked on a lot of dating shows. We worked on dating shows together. And when you get to like that, that's the stuff that really matters. That even in television, that actually makes it a good television show. But as opposed to just he's hooking up with her and she's hooking up with him.
And to that end, and that's why when you said, could he come along? I said, please get on the couch, because I'm older than both of y'all, right? I'm older than your parents. So fuck off. But
not my parents.
Not your parents. But the position of showrunner, so that you know, executive producer, showrunner, and oftentimes it's not your show, but you're hired to run somebody else's concept, means to dance for a lot of pipers, network, producers, all kinds of stuff. And the easy route, and the route that I have found in my life in game shows, reality talk, I can talk about my talk show that just sent me into like therapy because of this, is toxic often to get what you want for TV and the justification of whatever by any means necessary to get drama. And what you spoke to is exactly right, Hash, is that the hooking up is a good promo, and it's necessary for the mess that we want. But if there's not something of substance, that only lasts so long, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think most of the producers I've worked with are hedging their bet. And I'm not saying this is a slam, but most showrunners are dancing as fast as they can to give a show that the network's going to say this is a hit.
Yeah.
And it's all about contrivance to get those messy moments.
Right.
And overlook the thing that actually engages an audience is what you're speaking to.
Relatability, too. It's like, how many shows? There are enough shows on television where you can watch people hooking up. But I think the beauty of Temptation Island was that I love the salaciousness. I love a good twerk. But then what happens?
Yeah.
Right.
You know? And so I like the courting. I like the flirting.
Yeah.
I like the what's my boyfriend doing? What's my girlfriend doing? And then I like the why are you having a breakdown out of nowhere right now?
Right.
And let's talk about that for real. Not the, am I going to lose him? No. What is really going on and why has this been repeating in your life?
So here's flowers for her that you need to hear. So producers will, not in this room, but producers will in those moments walk up to cast members on other shows and say, I really need you to give me this. I really need you to give me this, all around the messy stuff. I've watched you and know that there's an army. It's literally, this is the general, then there are a bunch of lieutenants, and there are a bunch of sergeants and a bunch of soldiers doing 170 people that she's managing. She's the pinnacle. But when you go in, and I've seen it both ways, instead of going, hey, that's not what you said in this pre-interview, and I need you to say this, and you're angry now, and all this stuff, you're coming in with questions. What's going on? Why? And that takes more effort and time than most producers are willing to invest. I have a hunch that it has to do with what this foundation is, relationship-wise. But why do you choose that route as opposed to the route that you're probably asked to do a lot?
I think the authenticity at the end of the day, because viewers are really savvy now. And it's funny because sometimes people think that can't be real. But the realest, most entertaining moments are actually
the most outrageous moments are the realest.
Are the realest, exactly.
Right.
And that's because you got to let people just be in the zone they're in. Yeah. And communication and authenticity is what we like ground our relationship in. And so I can't expect that from others unless I'm having that in my own life. And I'm not trying to be the EP who's phony and people walk away from the show and say that was the worst experience of my life and they always told me to do this and pushed me to do that. I don't want any part of that. My character always comes first. And I won't step on my own character for anybody. Network, production company.
You see why I love it.
So, and we talk about it all the time.
So we were at your birthday party. Robbie and I came to your birthday party this weekend. I went out. I was outside for about 20 minutes and an Irish goodbye. I was out. But what I love is that when we got to the party early, the DJ's playing, but nobody's really there yet. But there were two people on the dance floor, and it was y'all. Now, on Temptation Island, I'm constantly coaching. This is my stuff. But I would say to these people on the show, to the women often, and the men too, I'm like, we can't deal with what your boyfriend's doing right now. You don't have control of that. But what you do have is control over you. And for you to have a healthy relationship, you need to be able to redefine what love is for you. And that's a little bit of what you're talking about is the authenticity stuff, is the why. Mm-hmm. But the reason you're able to do that is because you have that definition here.
It's true.
And I have that definition. Robbie's not on camera right now because I'm a controlling asshole, but she is right over there.
But it's so real that in any conversation I have with you, Robbie's name comes up.
Yeah.
Same here with Hashim.
That's
and
right.
Then all the people I met from his job said, Hashim talks about you all the time. It's like a constant synergy. Yeah. And when you can take that, especially into a dating show, it's like, no, I'm not just talking shit. Right. I lived this.
Yeah.
I'm doing this. We want.
As opposed to so many people in our business who are in fractured relationships and they're doing these dating shows and they're toxic at home and the only thing they have is the show.
Right.
And by the way, some of our own staff come to me sobbing because their life's in shambles.
Right.
Because it's hard to do what we do.
Or some of the stories trigger them. Because we're watching this couple and I was there 2 years ago or whatever it is. And so in that way, we're serious about what these people are going through, especially in that moment, because, we got to recycle that every season. And it's a lot when we're done. And my team is stellar.
The best.
And I don't want to hire anyone. I don't want anyone around me that is going to have this weird, nasty facade or bring some nasty energy into the equation. So everyone has to be here, And so if you can't get with this style of producing, then you can go do it somewhere else. Yeah. But I think people feel that. I think our true temptees, they know, nah, this feels real and this is real. And that's why people have breakdowns, because they can become so vulnerable. We allow them the space.
So you're getting this. So anybody who thinks that we're contriving what happens on our show, it's not the case. As a matter of fact, these aren't my words, although I've used them on TV and claimed them to be mine, but they're hers. But Triff says that I have heard you say that your commitment is that anyone who comes on this island leaves in a better place than when they came. But we're wise enough, I'm wise from age and you're wise beyond your years, to know that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good ride.
No.
That place that's better often comes through pain.
Doesn't mean it's
easy. For instance, speaking to what we're talking about, what you might think would be the greatest moment in my career was when I had a syndicated talk show, the Mark Wahlberg Show. It's like the dream, right? Yeah. And I'm a star. I'm on bus benches. I moved to this penthouse in New York. My name's on everything. I got a staff. I had anxiety, not anxiety, acute anxiety, like clinical, like I'm in trouble, panic attack that started from day one to the day it was canceled because the nature of talk was so toxic. And I've later learned through us that I have this empath thing, as you do too, that had me feeling all of that. Yeah. And so then when I kind of Monday morning quarterback our show, I realized that the reason I can be fully present, fully joyful, fully open and emotional with the people is because you and the people that you surround are all vibrating the same. Mm-hmm. Everybody from the PA to the top are, we always say, protecting the vibe.
Yeah.
And we're watching. And you want to talk about a model like Epcot from Disney was supposed to be a community that's supposed to work. If you want a model of that, check out Trifari staff. Mm-hmm. Every color of the rainbow.
Yeah.
We had he, she's, and theys, black, white, and green, conservative, and we're all on the same thing, which is we're going to protect our vibe first, and the show will follow.
Yep.
Is that fair to say?
100%. And it's very intentional. It's very intentional. Representation is intentional. And, also we're fortunate that David Goldberg allows us to do our thing and isn't, look, what about this or what about that? And you're not getting enough of this. And why isn't there a big thing? And that's huge. The pressure of that.
I'm glad you said that because I forget to give him props. David Goldberg runs Banijay, which is the company that owns our show. And here's why I wanted both of you here. And I want you to jump into this too, is that I'm talent. On my end, most people tell you, oh, you're awesome. And then they talk shit about you behind your back, right? And then you do your thing and you think you're great, but you're supported. You're standing on the shoulders of the whole production. But in producing, you're answering to the network and others with money. Mm-hmm. And they're going to impose without creativity or thought, imposing their will that's not particularly creative or sometimes is. Talk about the confidence you have to have as showrunners to allow someone like me to, like, what I'm getting at is, like, when I do these bonfires, you don't know what's going to happen, but you have to make the leap of going, I think we're going to get what we need, as opposed to a lesser producer would be, we need to fucking script this so that I know I'm getting what I need out of this scene.
Right.
Hash, can you speak to that at all?
I think it's a combination of a few things, though. I think one of the reasons why David probably allowed you guys to go is because you guys are both very capable of doing what you do, and you're good at it, and you proved it over and over again. But I think there has to be a level of with anything, right? Like if you're running any kind of business, you need to allow the people who are working for you to do their job.
I'm so glad you're a network executive now, because that's not a popular opinion.
No. Well, and ideally you're hiring people who aren't necessarily yes people, but they are there because you appreciate and admire their train of thought and how they think about things. And ideally it's not exactly how you think about it.
Passionate and capable.
Exactly. And I think, as a network executive now, that's what I try and make sure that I model. I've had execs in the past that were that and the opposite of that. So I try and think about like, okay, what execs do I want to learn from? The good and the bad.
What not to do and what to do.
Right. Like I remember having an exec on a show, I'll leave all of it unnamed, who said, can we just get a drink thrown in somebody's face? And
that's a perfect analogy, because that's really what we're talking about. That's really what so many people who are at the top of our business think that's how we're supposed to do this.
Exactly. And my immediate question was like, to what end? Like, for what? What's the, like, why right now?
Yeah.
Like, why would that even happen right now?
Yeah.
As opposed to just a drink getting thrown. Like, it's not interesting to me. Like, so I'm the wrong producer for that.
And that comes from them saying, I can see the promo.
Right.
What we need is a promo where somebody throws a drink in somebody's face. Right. Why and who and how, I don't care.
And to me, all of that comes, like, the salaciousness, the craziness, the outrageousness comes when you keep the vibe right, and you set the scene for people to be exactly who they are, and who they are will come out. And if that's who that person is, that's going to be.
Right.
If they're not that way and they're just acting, it's also going to feel like it's fake.
That's right.
There's so many shows on right now that you're watching and you're like,
acting.
He's acting. She's acting.
And what really scares me is that the audience gets conditioned by what they're being fed. So Vanderpump, I have no hate. I'm just saying we're buying professional wrestling. Yeah. So you can fake it on TV, and that we've developed a taste for that. It's like when you start feeding kids McDonald's and the salt and sugar becomes addictive. Right. It's not good for them, but they keep eating it.
Right.
But also, it's hard to cast our show because of that.
Right.
Because people come in and it's like, oh,
they start
you
writing
want
the script.
The blue check mark.
Yeah.
That ain't what we're doing here. So
I call that right out first day.
Yeah.
One of my favorite speeches on the first day, when we're shooting all the stuff we have to do on that first day, which is they arrive and we have a toast and we have all this stuff. It's a big day. And then after that, I'm playing golf while you produce a show. It's pretty sick. It's the greatest gig ever. You have no idea. We've gotten it now. By the way, here's the briefing before the bonfire. It used to be she would come down, we would sit, and we'd talk through each story. And this is when somebody else was running the show, and we would do that. It goes like this now. Trifari's running everything. I'll pass by or she'll pass by. Either she'll come to, she usually comes to where I am, and she'll go, "You good?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good." I'm like, "You good?" She goes, "Yeah, I'm good." I'm like, she goes, "I got you." I know. And we're done. That's basically it, right?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Because when we're doing it,
yeah.
If I lose my place, which happens, you're right there.
Yeah.
And you ask the question, and it's seamless. It's not like your voice. It's almost, I almost hear it as my voice. And oftentimes what's going on in the earpiece is in between scenes.
Yeah.
When we're just talking about how we're feeling from what we just saw.
Yeah.
Oh my God. When we end one bonfire, we're like,
oh God.
Like they're gonna be okay. They're gonna be okay. They're gonna get through it,
and we got to do it again.
Yeah, yeah.
But what I was gonna say,
the blue check mark,
and all that is, I would say to them off camera, why did you come to the island? And they immediately give you the line they've been rehearsed to say, which is, we have issues with our relationship that we want to work out. And I say, yeah. Now what I think you want is clout, and it doesn't matter to me, because the route to both of those is the same thing. You want people to follow you, be authentic.
Right.
You want to figure out your relationship, be authentic.
Yep.
If you're a villain, be a villain.
And there's always a moment, the people who come that slip through the cracks that only came for clout, they are the ones that have the biggest breakdowns usually.
Yeah.
Only a few have slid through without really showing us who they are or being vulnerable at all. Only a couple through the 5 seasons we've been doing it together. But man, you always tell them though, what you think you came here for, that's your line.
See, you got questions. We've got answers, but they're none of the questions you thought you were asking.
Right.
Yep. And that's the truth.
It's true.
People are like, we're coming, we're doing this, da, 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 da. And then we start going into different directions and they're like, wait, hold on. Like, what did Vanessa say last night? I'm not doing this with you, Mark.
And I'm like,
I'm not doing this with you, Mark. Like, yeah, because you were tapping into something that
I said, you're already
yeah, it's here. We're here. We're in it. And that to me is what it is. It's like, you can have the protective layer, but we're going to peel it back.
And here's why we peel it back. And I've seen it both ways. There's peeling it back from a mercenary standpoint, which goes back to what we were talking about manipulating the show. But when you are when you are being real with them, you can tough love really hard because you've been vulnerable first. So when you're peeling it back, we're peeling back for real. Mm-hmm. And if it's on TV or not, in the moment, that's your issue. You got to deal with that. Yeah. I even say that. I'm like, I'm going to do my thing. You're going to have to figure out how this works on TV, which you always do.
Yeah,
right?
You do say that to me. And I know we will.
Yeah. But that's why these moments that happen that people think are scripted are actually much deeper and real, is because they're unexpected and they're caught off guard and they are fostered by us going first. Like when you show up on set, you're not showing up like the boss that people need to, I'm talking about to the cast, the boss that they need to manage themselves around. Mm-hmm. You sit with them like a mom or a sister and like, what's going on with you?
I have to just interject. I loved
what?
At one of the meetings you said, let's move these lives forward.
Yeah, let's move these lives forward. If you can't hear what Robbie's saying, because she doesn't have a mic, because I told her she's not in this episode, but it's whatever. But this is just like on the show.
Everything.
By the way.
That's everything.
Okay. But this is just like... So this is another thing. That it wasn't where I was going, but fuck it. We're here. So I told Robbie on season 1, I'm not going to... Honey, you don't have a mic, so just pretend you're not here for a moment.
Okay.
I said, I'm bringing you because I'm not going to Hawaii without you because I'd like to keep this marriage together. But you're in show business, Robbie, so you know that this is a job, not vacation. So you can go, but you got to be invisible. She's like, I got it. And season 1, she was relatively invisible. Season 2, she's at the bonfires, but she's in a lawn chair with the makeup and wardrobe, but relatively invisible. Season 3, by the end of season 2, she's got an earpiece from the audio guy so she can hear better. Season 3, we're in the pandemic, so we're all on top of each other in the bubble.
Where's Robbie's chair? Make sure there's a chair for Robbie back here.
She's in the control room now.
Yep.
Which I'm like, you don't, and this is what, and I got to tell you what I told her. I said, there's a reason why you can't be in the control room. It's not that there's not room for you or stuff like that. It's like, I know TV, and even though people who love me, like Trifari, love me, you still talk shit about the talent. Like, that's what you do in the booth when the director's directing and I say something stupid or I talk too much. They're allowed to go, this fucking talent, what are they doing? And I don't want to choke them from that. And if you're in the room, they got to not say shit about me that they get to say, so you can't be there. But she's like, yeah, okay. My favorite thing is we're doing the bonfire. It's really emotional. And because we're in the bubble, all of our on-the-fly interviews, the after interviews that you see are staged close by, so we had to be quiet. And I'm always in a funk after the bonfire, so I'm walking back and I'm in my, like, going through what did I just say and have I said too much and whatever. And Robbie comes out of the control room where she's not supposed to be, right? And throws the door open to the control room and walks out, and there's interviews going everywhere. And in full voice, she goes, masterpiece. Absolute masterpiece.
It was a masterpiece.
But that's not your role. To make a long story short, any other executive producer, and this is a true takeaway, and this goes back to the confidence both of you have in how you run shows. When you know you're the shit, you can allow people to do their thing and then go, yeah, no, or okay. When you're not the shit as a producer, you control everything, right? When you know your worth and you know what you're doing, you can allow things to go where they're going to go, knowing that you got this. Same thing I do with the bonfire. I can let them go wherever they want to go. I know what I'm doing.
Right.
So having Robbie in the booth for any other executive producer, not just Robbie, it's not just Robbie who's a lot, but anybody, it's your space.
Yeah.
And people are very, very proprietary about it. Mm-hmm. But you're not, unless it's too far, and then you kindly saying, yeah, no. But the space of trusting that we'll get what we get and taking the long route to get there, long route being choosing to be authentic as opposed to manipulating this, speaks to the level. And I can tell you, because I've been in the game longer than you, that's doesn't exist in executive producers anymore. And you two are that shit. You two are cream of the crop because you have an authentic vision of what you want to do. You're not measuring yourself against everybody else. You're not looking at every coming up producer or somebody trying to get your job.
Oh, you speak
not
on
at all.
it. Because
As a matter of fact, it's really about bringing those people up so
But
they can.
unpopular decision.
Yeah.
So they
Let's say
can, like, the idea, we talked about this a long time ago, that like our goal has always been to find the next us and the ones behind them and the ones behind them and bring them up.
We've talked about people who then chose, like, I don't want to do this job for this thing, and then they're out of the club, and what they don't realize is that what we don't realize, folks, that I love, is that we have this timeline of desperation about where we think we want to go and by when. And we make rash decisions based on that.
Yeah.
But if we settle down and realize that we're going to take a long route to get to a better place, then it really becomes, you quantify it differently, not by what you need to attain, who you need to be with, but you quantify it by who's the team you're playing in. And if the team is doing well, so will you. And that's the thing I'm talking about. When you're the head of that game, I've seen it two ways. I've seen those A-list producers that are such assholes to everyone, not so much to me because I'm talented and very fragile, but to everyone else, it's you beat them into submission, and everybody. And what happens is people start delivering to you what you said you wanted, but it's all manufactured.
Yep.
Nothing real. It takes real producers, which are a lost breed, that allow your team to do their thing and then say, yeah, no, redirect, which you both do expertly.
Yeah, I think that, knowing what you know and stepping in a room to do that with your team. So there are times when I give people a voice, and sometimes that idea isn't going to work for my vision, but my vision does include everyone's opinion. I make sure that, like, okay, this is where we're going. I know that she has this. I know that he has that. This is going to come out at some point, but their input matters to me.
Even if it's wrong.
Right. But you have to also, as a leader, know when to say, yeah, we're not going there right now. Like, this is where we're going.
You've done that with me.
It's just important because my job is to have the big picture from A and everything in between to Z. And somebody has to do that. And so there's a time and a place for everything. But to go back to your relationship, is the reason I think it's important if Robbie wants to be in the control room is that I've already established a relationship with her.
Yeah. Real relationship.
Yeah,
not just
real one.
Be nice to the host's wife.
That's the difference, because there's a cute little green room that we could get her set up. And
which is what we do with network executives when they visit. We give them wine and put them in the green room.
Yeah.
But so the thing
is
that
Yeah.
he likes it, actually.
It's not a bad life, man. I'm telling you.
But I think that everyone, to me on set, I need to have an idea of who they are. Do you have children? Are you single and you love your dog? Do you live in New York or do you live in LA? So that when I see you, so that Robbie isn't someone who's in the control room that I have to think, oh God, let me not say the wrong thing. Because if I say, Mark's going he's going left.
What the fuck is he doing?
She's not going to get offended because she probably is like, he's going left, girl, bring him back.
Yeah.
Or, she's in that, you know what I mean? And so it's like, I know her and I know how important she is to you. And I know that the conversation you had last night and 10 years ago is going to show up. And so that matters to me.
I need a tissue.
I got choked up too.
There's one really simple thing that all is, and that's respect.
Say that again.
They respect each other. She's in the control room, but she's not going to overstep and do something that she shouldn't do because, like, really,
She'll do more than I want her to do, but not too much.
But she's not going to do anything that's going to be disrespectful to Trifari because she respects who she is and what she's doing.
But that's also because Trifari
will honor and respect her.
Saw
and
her.
Who she exactly
Saw her.
Yeah.
Not as, let's placate the wife.
Right. And
no, I see you. And by the way, the man that is doing my show is because of you, girlfriend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? And you get that because you get that.
Yes.
It's also why you guys get the story you get because you respect those people.
Now you're talking.
And you respect whatever they're going through and however they got there, whether you agree with it, disagree with it, whatever it is. If you're like,
yes.
I would never do that, but you respect that this is a human being who's going through something. And we've all done some
judgment.
Right.
No.
Because we all know that everybody in this room has done something that they wish they didn't do when they were 19 years old.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. The greatest thing in my life is that that social media was invented way later. Because
I say the same thing.
1986 Wahlberg canceled several times over.
No, it's real though, because I think that's why when we're done or when we're in it, we get nauseous or we're sweating. But also, we're the friends that people want to have because you want your friend to, with love, say, I'm going to stop you right there.
Right.
That's bullshit. And either you're willing to accept that and grow or not. If you're not, fine, but I'm about to have a real moment.
But that is something I do on camera and you do off camera. That's what we're talking about here is the way I can get, let's go, Vanessa, is because before we got there, whether said or not, I know that Vanessa knows that my intention is pure.
That's it.
And she knows that we as a show are doing that because she's met with you first.
Right.
And if not you, she's met with Talisha
Yep.
or Jen, or go down the line as far as you want, because if someone's doing it wrong, they'd be gone.
Yeah. Every
Right?
cast member, every couple, as soon as they get on the island, I give them a day to settle in and I sit with them and I say, look, I'm never going to ask you to do something you don't want to do. I'm always going to have my producers ask you the hard questions, but you will feel comfortable with someone to be able to get vulnerable. But this is going to be real. It's going to be a real experience. You might not leave here together, but I can guarantee you that when you make that decision, it's going to be informed by a lot.
It's so funny to hear you say it because I've never heard you give that speech. You guys often write me and say that you think that I know so much and that you think I'm running the show and that I've cast the show. And when I tell you that I meet the cast when you see it on camera, and if I'm lucky, I got a headshot before that. If Trifari remembers, because there's this other thing I always laugh about is that when somebody has confidence in you, they kind of like, oh, he doesn't need that anymore. Yeah. And so Trif, and I love you, I guess has confidence in me because it's like, we don't spend a lot of prep time.
He's always like, I don't know. And I'm like,
can I at least get the names? Can I at least learn the names? That's all I want. But there's this relationship that has to be created instantly that is going to have to survive this whole time, which is what I was going to say is that what you just said was a version of what I say to them too, and I never knew you said that. Because I always say to them, I'm committed to your love and this experience being, something that leaves all 8 of you in a better place. But notice I didn't say 4 couples. I said 8 people. Mm-hmm. And that comes from Robbie and me, and Hash and you. Mm-hmm. We have seen some things. Yeah. Right? So there's a realness about where we look at their 28, 32-year-old life experience. And that's why people say, oh, you're a therapist. Nah, dog, I've been here longer. Right? You've been here a little bit longer. We've had a thicker life. We've started this life early. I don't know when you guys got married or started dating or whatever.
13 years married.
We've been married.
Right. And that's pretty young.
Yeah.
I got married 2 weeks before my 25th birthday.
Wow.
That's young.
Yeah, that's young. we laugh about it now. It's like, what were we thinking?
Yeah.
What were we thinking? We didn't have a job. We didn't have anything. Just like now. Just like right now. Same shit. So let me, with a little bit of time, I'm in no hurry, but let's skip over to this. You're both in the same business. And for those of you who think that, like, especially when you're on camera, people think I'm rolling around in a Lambo and everything's just, I work 3 weeks and I'm a star for 3 weeks. And then I'm like, back trying to figure stuff out. We, in our relationship, have no guarantee whatsoever, and nothing. The whole thing is on Jello. Our whole life is on Jello. 13 weeks is a long commitment. You're both in this business. You're doing the same job often. How do you make this work?
Planning. In the beginning, he would do post and I would do field, and then we would switch, and we had to do this dance of, now we have 3 girls. So before, when it was just none, that was easy. And then we were together out in the field. He was a production manager when we first met.
On the same shows?
When we first met, we met on a show. I was the production manager. She was a field producer.
That's called a showmatch, you guys, or a location ship.
That first show, we weren't dating.
I see.
We became friends on that, though, because we ended up having to work very closely together because it was a very small team.
Yeah.
And it was a new show. This is 2007. Reality was still kind of becoming what reality was becoming. So we're still figuring out like how we were doing.
No
certain
precedent
things.
set, so everything is harder work.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And we both had experience already in unscripted and in reality and docu-follow, but it was different, and it was a show that was near and dear to us. It was about these high school kids in Baldwin Hills. It was called Baldwin Hills.
Clever.
Yeah. But we became like very cool on that show. About a year later, we worked together again, and at that rap party, I crossed the line.
Well,
That first time we worked together, we were both in relationships. The second time, we were not.
I see.
But he was on the production side and I was on the producing side. And then he decided he wanted to come onto the creative side. And then we partnered up on The Bachelor when we worked on The Bachelor. And
we were a good team because so that I think that's part of what helped us in our relationship as well, though, because we were a good team
first.
We were a good team in the field, like at work. And we became friends that way.
And that job, by the way, those jobs in the field, what we're talking about is in the field chasing down the story and running and gunning, and you're following rather than creating. And what happens is a shorthand of communication gets developed. Right?
Yeah.
Which is indicative of relationship.
Yeah, totally. And the good thing about what happened was we were friends first. So I probably knew way more than I should ever know about like a guy I was going to date, and I wouldn't ever sign up for that in any other relationship. So it's the first time I had like a true friendship with someone before I started
all the
dating
transparency before you started dating.
Yeah.
And
like,
it really
so all the red flags are out before
like
you
even like people I dated like while we were friends,
right.
Like stuff like that and stuff that was going on, and she'd be like, "Ew, that's disgusting! Like, what are you doing?"
But if you've been married long enough, you know that disgusting is like a major part of the relationship. Robbie can show you the face I make when I'm picking my toes on the couch. So we can talk about disgusting.
Yeah, it was all of that, but I think that just built into our relationship. We have a friendship first, and through it all, we are like we're partners. We're not even just friends. We're partners in everything we do. Every decision that's made, like we wouldn't take jobs until we talked about it. Sometimes it was like, sometimes we wouldn't take a job because it didn't make sense for us and for our family. And sometimes that was hard. It was like, I really want to take this show, but if I take it,
I'm going to be gone for 6 months.
Or whatever the thing is, and it wasn't the right thing to do for us or for our
Robbie
family.
and I have had a similar situation. We raised 2 kids. Now the kids are grown. We've changed our phone number. I don't. Don't tell them where we are.
They're gonna DM you.
Right, yeah. Neither one of them follow my shit, so it doesn't matter. And they both have more followers than me. But we made a 2-week rule, I wouldn't travel for longer than 2 weeks without her.
Wow.
Until the kids got grown, and then I take her with me everywhere I can take her, except for the gigs. She doesn't want to go on with me. And I have to go by
Ohio,
myself.
I'll pass.
Yeah, exactly. Where are you going? Toledo.
Been there already. Been there already.
I'm busy.
I got something to do.
She's like, we can make 3 weeks. We're good. But what you're speaking to, and I hope you're writing it down, this stuff, is that, again, that timeline where you're desperate and you're making decisions based on lack, you get your priorities fucked up. Mm-hmm. In our business, everything is in jello. You're out of work as quick as you're in work. You're huge one day and then you're lost. And by the way, it happens instantly. You're literally getting free shit, and they're like, can you do interviews? And then 2 days later, you're target paying retail because nobody returns your call. Mm-hmm. If you don't find that grounding, if you don't make priorities like your daughters and your relationship come before all, then you will lose those things.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And I think that, for us, communication, why I can come to you and we can ask of these people to be completely honest is because I'm that way in my relationship. And if we have any little thing that's bothering us, we can usually detect it and sense it. But for me, it's like, the relationships I've been in the past, the communication wasn't there, and we weren't signing up for that. And when I finally decided to do this with him, I had a year of healing, and I needed to get my shit correct because the last one was like heartbreak, and he waited. And so we both were like, why would we sign up for some more bullshit and then get married and be in some more bullshit? Right. It's like, why do that? And it's way easier to have the conversation that you think is going to be hard that actually ends up being not as hard because you're actually getting it out. And then it lays the groundwork for something way more powerful, way more present. And that's what we want. Who wants to walk around not speaking to their person for 2 weeks or uncomfortable in their own home or going to bed pissed off for 3 weeks or whatever? And
so there's a couple things you got to get in this from what she just said. You got to get is that, first of all, same for me, but against what I probably culturally grew up with. I was raised in the Deep South. We say bless your heart and we don't talk about anything. Right. My family a little bit. I was going to give them props, but no. But Robbie's full contact. Robbie, and I've told it's okay to talk about it, but Robbie's sober 40 years. She had to, at 18 years old, make decisions and be adult herself and figure this out, all the demons. So when one of us isn't right, it would be easy for me or others or you to just go, no, I'm fine. And the other person go, I'm fine. And then what happens is the husband goes to work and the wife goes to tennis lessons and shit's fucked up, right? Yeah. Robbie just doesn't do that. Robbie doesn't have a thought that's not expressed. And if it's not right, she's going to make me talk about it. And I will scream at her and treat her like shit, as I did on this episode that we can't air, that you and I did because I was such a dick. I can't air it. Because nobody triggers me more than her, but that's her job and that's my job. The other thing that is really valuable that you said that we say on Temptation Island, but this is it, is that when we have, you said you needed to come correct this time because the last one was a mess. We often look at our litany of relationships as failures. But what I'm constantly saying, we are, and when I say something on the show, we are saying it on the show. So let me be clear on that one. But I say the lesson you're learning may be for the next relationship. Yeah. So there's no such thing as failing there, but you just have to learn you're either on the 5-year plan or the 2-year plan. You know what I mean? It's like nobody's going to tell you when you're going to get it. But the beauty of messing up is to then make the correction on the next one. You know what you do. It's what I always say is you got to define what love is. And that's a fluid situation. Right. And you got to find the person, in your case, a friend first, that saw the disgusting stuff first. And then there's no going back from that. Well, also, I think that's important. And we kind of touched on this, is that he's my biggest cheerleader. So, when we start a gig and we're like, what did I just do? Or can I do this? Whatever, all the things, all the naysaying. Well, you get in the weeds, you get in the soup, or something goes a little left, or nobody has kissed, and we're in episode 4. Right. But,
you need someone in your corner who really knows you to say, you're good. You've done this before. You're completely capable, to remind you that it's going to be okay. And when it's coming from someone who has pure love for you and really knows you, and it's not bullshit, it does
different.
something for you. Exactly. And so that's why I can continue to climb.
You have a very unique situation, is that you've got that connection emotionally, and you both know that job.
Yeah, because it's very unique.
You have no idea the level of what running on one of these shows. Running any show is difficult. Running one of these shows is 5 circuses at one time, and I'm just talking about the staff. I'm not talking about the cast, which is a whole other world, but just the emotion of. You take 22-year-old creative people and put them on an island where they've got no parents and shit. That's the show. Am I wrong? Like our staff, one party, that's a show that I would love to host if I were invited to the party. But that's deep. Because our business attracts a certain personality type, which lives in the extremes. And it's where the good shit is, but you need to have a captain of the ship or you're on the rocks instantly,
right?
Yeah.
Which you do expertly. And it's very difficult to keep those balls in the air and not let it attack you.
Yeah.
And I've seen producers that'll produce all day and they rage till 5 a.m, show up the next day and do it. We know some of the same. And neither you or I shy away from a party.
Right.
That's part of it. But keeping the focus on where we're headed in a way that allows everybody to be seen and heard. You said something that's really interesting, that he's your biggest cheerleader, and Robbie is my biggest cheerleader, well beyond what I deserve. But also, in the moments where I have plenty of cheerleaders, Robbie ends up being my only critic, which also helps. So to give you that
the balance.
Framework is the truth, right?
Yeah,
the truth, which
huge.
Sometimes I prefer you didn't get me. But at Temptation Island, for instance, we do these bonfires, and you said it, that our staff can get triggered by it because we're talking about real stuff, and we're going to dangerous places with the conversation. And I'll finish a bonfire, and I'll have PAs come up to me with tears and hug me and say, "You don't understand."
Yep.
And I'm available if they want to hit me up today.
Yeah.
But so I'll get 100 people telling me how great I did.
Yeah.
And then Robbie will come up and give me a hug and say, "You did great. But what was that?"
Yeah.
And you missed this. And then I'll throw a little tantrum, but it's one of the reasons why I joke about her being in the control room, because she shouldn't be there. Let's just be clear. But it has turned out to be a benefit for me, because she's really the only real eyes that see I can bullshit good, and I can't front her. So what happens after the bonfire is that you go right back to work. Like the bonfire ends and I'm like, "Phew, that was great." And then I go in the control room and they're still watching TV because it's still going. And I'm like, "Hey, but what? Wasn't it good? Did I do good? Hey, can we get a drink?" And they're like, "No, we're working, doing the show. You go play golf and we'll call you when we need you." But then what happens is Robbie goes back, goes to bed. It's midnight or so. I go hang out with the local Hawaiian grips because love you, boy. And then kind of decompress a little bit there. But then at 3 a.m, when Robbie's sound asleep, I wake up and go, "What did I fucking say? Oh my God. This is, if I call Trifari, maybe she can cut it out right now." And all I can remember are the cringes. And that's when Robbie, literally in the middle of the night, can roll over and say, "No, you were fine. And you said this, but that's okay." And, it's just the clarity. Somebody that knows you deeper than, and I'm wondering how much pillow talk happens business-wise with you guys.
All the time.
Well, what was really funny is at our party, one of his coworkers said this inside joke to him, and I laughed because he had already told me about the joke.
So you just outed yourself?
But or no, she wrote it in the book or something.
Yeah, it wasn't so bad that.
Yeah, no, it wasn't like personal or anything, but it's like that.
But it was really small though.
Yeah.
It was like it's one of those things that like you wouldn't necessarily
way inside.
Yeah, well, and it's not something that it wasn't pressing enough that like you would want to come home and say, "Oh my God, this funny thing happened." But we talk so much about everything that it was like she knew. So she knows the little intricacies of what's going on in my day.
Yeah.
And I know what's going on in hers. And even when she's in Hawaii and I can't be there or I'm not there, we talk as much as we can.
Yeah.
Between the time difference
and sometimes
the
it's
kids
just an encouraging text or whatever.
That's it. Check in.
But yeah.
You good, like we do.
Yep.
And I'm going to wrap this up because I could do this for hours, and I'll have you back if you'll come back.
Of course.
And I love you both for doing this.
We love you too.
I mean, I love you separate from doing this, and thank you for doing this. But what you're seeing here, you guys, is like that rare beast that doesn't exist. Is that what you're seeing is in the toxic world of reality TV specifically, which is it's everything you think toxicity wise. You're looking at a host who's been married 36 years and 2 executive producers who've been married with children and making that a priority. This is like doesn't happen. And if anything on Temptation Island rang true to you, this is why. And I wanted you to know who is responsible. So I love you.
We love you too.
Outside of show business. But I really wanted to take a moment to thank you for making a bed to allow me to do, even though it's somewhat inane, the most fulfilling experience I've ever had on camera. And you only do that when, and I always say it, it's kind of a cliche, but I say that if I'm standing tall, it's because I'm on your shoulders. And those shoulders are not just you, but everybody you bring into my world. So happy birthday to you. Thank you. Jumping on here with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And get back in the office and hire a brother, because this podcast thing, I mean, I got 5 people watching this shit right now. So. I only got so many good years. I still got hair, but it's white, so, hurry up. All right, love you both.
Yeah.
Love you too.
Love
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for having us.
And Robbie.
And Robbie.